Okay, my good friends, it's Roger once again. Anybody that has Google Earth can come up and look at this gigantic dragon that attacked the gigantic fish that is right underneath it, which is that gigantic fish right there. Now, this is in the Sahara Desert, and this is in Morocco. This is a dragon, and that is his dragon-scaled throat. Now, these are spectacular by any measure whatsoever because they have been ignored and denied. Now, NASA is a scientific agency going to the moon or going to Mars, and this same stuff exists on Mars. And I have evidence to show that. The Mars Morse code I'm going to show. I'm going to show the Mars blueberries. I'm going to show the Mars crab. This must be taken into account to stay in the realm of reality. I know it seems like you are in Disney World, but it is not fake, it is real. If you have Google Earth, you can verify this. Now, I contacted all of the people at NASA. Well, let's just go a little further. I'll show you. Okay, now I emailed all these people, and they have all different areas of expertise: evolution of early life, genomics, water on the moon, and so forth, astrobiology, planetary sciences, systems engineering. Because I have a lot of questions, and also I have questions about light. Here's one: blue marble science. Space. All right, blue marble. I think they're talking about the blue marbles they find on Mars, which are well, I'll show you what they're. Okay, the blue marbles, Mars blueberries, whatever you want to call them. These are intercision balls. They're all over Earth as well. They're biological. You saw the giant creatures, and let me show you what they are on Earth. Okay, again, I studied the mud fossils for 8 years now. I fully understand this. These little dots are the investment tags that hold the collagen fibers and these fluid-filled bags in position so that they can return as they stretch and pull and do all that. These are the anchors. All right, now, as the skin and so forth erodes away, this is very weak, weaker, strong. These balls, which they call concretions, become all over, and these are the Mars blueberries, just like these other ones. I think they call them the Monique marbles. Actually, I guess they call them Moki marbles. And what they are is these tendon enthesis tags, these little intercision balls. And once the flesh above it erodes away and all the little gooey stuff, the balls just drift around. Now, this is the mud is what is left over. That's what turns into mud. Now, normally the balls aren't this big. You don't normally notice them. But this is just a large creature. This is the lower layer of tissue, and above it is the top layer. It's either a membrane or it's your skin or whatever, because all underneath your skin is this exact same stuff, and it is all over Mars as well. With the Earth, Mars, and literally everything there is biology, and it's time to look at it in this light and not avoid this because it's too spectacular to let your mind roam in this realm. You have to break away from the attacks on reality, which has been happening ever since Velikovsky and long before that. Like, I guess Max Planck said, nobody's mind ever changes. The old researchers just die off. Because once they take hold, you can't change them. And even Einstein was wrong about light and everything. Well, let me show you that. Let's get right into it, because I'm dealing with the people at NASA now. We are paying these people for reality. I'm funding them. As far as I'm concerned, I think they're using my money. So I would like some answers about this stuff, because I have physical evidence, not just guesses. Now, anybody that's seen my work knows that I understand exactly what this is, and that is an arterial blood supply that is supplying this, which is tissue, and that is the vein return supply. These are the little blood vessels that invest into the layers of tissue. That's what they call the Mars crab. All right, now I know this is a bad day for academia, but it's going to be a good day for truth. Now, these are these Peruvian walls. They were made out of wet, decaying flesh. And here they cut a piece into a bone, where they normally just take the solid parts, which are mostly the tendons. Now, listen to this. Okay, now remember, I said they harvested it semi-wet, which obviously they had some kind of a vehicle here. And it was a tank tread type of vehicle. You see these tank tread looking things here? And then the tires set into here. Obviously, this was moist when they harvested these cut slabs. And I believe they had a vehicle and had a thing hang over cutting those slabs. Now I'll show you why I say that. And I'll show you why I say this is a tendon. And you can obviously see why I say it was wet when they did this harvesting. I mean, that 5-year-old can obviously see what they're seeing. Now, this is Fuerte de Sempiata, Bolivia. Now, to just disregard this is very hard for me to accept from geologists. Now, as I said, they cut the slabs, that's the tendon, they cut the slabs and they built these walls in the back. Now, I was always wondering, why do they build these silly looking walls? Well, apparently they are for defensive purposes, which leads a whole new layer on this investigation, because these were giant creatures and they were killed and they were still wet when they were building these walls. So they were drowned in the flood. It said in all of the texts, the giant things were drowned in the flood. And they were still moist when they were building these walls. So these walls didn't have to be huge to keep gigantic creatures out. So now they're down to the size of maybe human beings. I don't know. But they said they killed everything on Earth. There's a lot to look into here, a lot. Now, there are multiple areas where there's tire tracks. This is like a 4-wheel drive tire track over the top of a wet tendon. That was done when this was moist, driving over the top. And that is another tendon, and that's the synovial sheath on it. Now the reason I'm gonna go continue into this, because again, they're asking for people to ask questions. I have questions. How can you account for this with the theories that we're being presented with from NASA and academia? That's what I want to know. Why are the things I am showing invalid? Because they point to a whole different perspective on history. Obviously, what we have been told is not correct. And what we have been led to believe about our ancient past is obviously not right. And I also say that the physics that we have been led to believe is totally wrong as well. And here's something I can almost prove any child can understand this. The sun's surface is 6,000 degrees. Way out at the corona, it's millions of degrees. You stand closer to the hot, you get hotter. You move away from the hot, you get cooler. This is just the opposite. The only reason this is happening is that the universe is completely flooded with those tiny little light particles that I showed from the Venturi experiments, which is here. I showed the electron flooded particles. So we know there's particles coming from the sun and everywhere in the universe. And as the sun is dragged through the arm of the Milky Way, as it spins and additionally spins, it is scrubbing into these particles, which is nothing more than an electric motor. Just like this. If I spin this, it is rubbing the commutator in the center against the outside magnetic field, and those two interact and force against each other, creating this magnetic scrub and the magnetic zone. And it creates the same thing on our Earth, which is the magnetic field, because we're doing the exact same thing. And our magnetosphere is thousands of degrees, and our Earth is 80, 90 degrees on Earth. Exact same reason, scrub. Exact same reason for the magnetic field. Ether fills the universe. This is a very, very bad day for what we've been told, because now we're coming into reality. But somebody's going to have to step up. Now, I don't know how you're going to handle this, because literally everything that we've been told is not correct. So, but it's time to stand up. Somebody's got to do it and start to say, yeah, let's take a look at this stuff. Why walk around in circles and pretend, like you're whistling in the woods and the wolf is just standing there waiting for you? And there's a lot more to this than just this physicalness. So these are kind of answers I'd like to have. I don't know how anybody's going to answer them other than to just say, we're going to look into it. But if they say that, I want to know, what are you looking into? Let's look into it together. I want to be part of the discussion. Okay, I might have got a little off track there, but we're back to the interstitium. Now remember, this can pull this way, pull this way, pull this way, pull that way, and it all comes back because of these tags. Now, so when it stretches, these things elongate, and when they come back together, they can push back together. It's not an issue, because eventually they're going to come back to this situation. Well, let's look at what the Mars Morse code is. Okay, so this is the Mars Morse code, they call it. Well, what this is skin, and it's been eroded, and the interstitium is collected here and stretched here. It's like, you stretch, because some place is going to gather and some place is going to stretch. Now, this is the surface of Mars, and it is basically sandblasted. All right, it's basically been sandblasted away, and the weakest parts, which are the straps, have eroded. The balls are tougher than any of the other parts. So that's why you end up with these balls all over the place. On Earth, the straps just they turn into mud. On here, it's a little different. They get eroded less than the balls. But this is what we have. Now, I know this is going to be a bad day for some experts, but it's a good day for reality and truth. And it's, you can look at it as a bad day, or you can look at it as, wow, I understand all of this stuff. Now let me look at it in this new light. Because you have to. You cannot continue to avoid reality any longer. It's not going to be allowed. It's just not going to be allowed anymore. The evidence is too overwhelming, and it's too substantial this time. Okay, I don't want to get too far off track, but this is simple red laser, pulse red laser. Then we shot it through a venturi, which is a restriction that forces what goes through it to accelerate, and what went through it was the particle, which is the particle of light. Light is particles. It is not just nothing. It's particles. Those particles flow from the sun to the earth, and they are the dark matter and the dark energy. They are particles in what we call the vacuum of space. And these are those particles. Plus, minus, plus, minus. Only the white part is concussive and explosive. The black part is what they call a boson. It's a carrier. These are dipoles. And when they're locked together in a box configuration, they are photons. When they smash and separate, They are electrons. And not only that, we can separate them, and not only separate them, we can charge separate them, the black from the white. I will show you that. This nobody knows about. I don't know what it is. This shows that light can go faster and then slow down. It's spinning to the right, drifting to the left. These are the Higgs fields that are, and these are from light. These are not from nuclear particles. These are from light, so they're the smallest particles there are. Now let's see charge separation. All right, this is literally the boson they've been talking about, which is the charge carrier. These little black dots, those were the ones that were attached to the white dots in the photons. The whites explode when they hit this venturi, which is the restriction. This is 100% energy. Well, hold on a second. This was the original red pulse laser. It would not do this unless it was accelerated, which it is, no question whatsoever. It is pulling itself out of its magnetic bubble, the particle itself, and it is concussing here. No question whatsoever, this brilliance demonstrates an increase in potential energy, which this only disrupts so much in front. This, boom, explodes everything. And we did see a charge separate. These are the kind of answers I would like from somebody in physics, and I have been refused an audience everywhere on any of these things. So that's why I'm a little hostile about this. So I don't mean to be that way, but I want some answers, please. I hope you realize just this picture shows Einstein was wrong. Light can accelerate. Light is a particle. It also shows that if light is a particle, it is coming through space as a particle. That is where all the dark matter and the dark energy exists. And not only that, there is a new theory which I came up with, is electron flood theory, which says that the nucleus is completely flooded with electrons. They know the nucleus is not correct anymore. They all admit it, but they won't. They just think there's something that they never saw before. Well, the only thing is, all there is electrons, and they are these little dipoles, which I showed down here, the little black and white dipoles. Now again, I'd like some answers on this. I deserve to be heard. This looks pretty solid to me, that it should be investigated. And I have all the details on it. This would be a helium, and this is the way the electrons try to continue to come in, because the positives will attract them, but the negative surrounding them will keep them away. And that the positives don't mind being touching each other, so they will collect in a region, and then they will be surrounded by negatives. That gives you resonance frequencies. And I've got tons of videos on this, and this shows a strong and a weak force, electrons at rest, photons, and photons concussing. Okay, my friends, I will keep you informed as to what happens. Now, it's Roger at mudfossils.com. Serious, researchers. I'm interested, because we're in a new world. Absolutely new world. As far as I'm concerned, the atomic structure has now been resolved. It's electron flood. We have new ancestry, which is the old ancestry, but we have to look at it in a new light. So all of our history has changed. There's all kinds of creatures that we never expected were real. And I have new species here. I have new species here. I call them notos. And we have these in copious quantities, legs, complete legs. And anyway, we got to go back to the old knowledge. Velikovsky is the guy I am going to start really focusing in on, and going back to his research with this new knowledge of gigantic creatures. So we need a new thinking, and then eternity. That's what they were all talking about, gods, and how to get into. Stay out of hell. And teachers should look into this very closely, because there's a lot written about them. I'm serious. Because you have to take everything into a new consideration. If you're a valid researcher. Everything I'm doing is valid scientific research. I'm not hiding from anything. And that's what I'm afraid well, I know it's happened, and I'm afraid it will happen. That's why I'm trying to make this so public. All right, thank you all. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone. I love you all. Let your mind wander into a realm where giant fish lay in the desert, decomposing, having been attacked by a giant dragon who is also decaying and bodily fluids are running off in the desert. This giant dragon extends all the way across the top of Africa, all the way almost to the Mediterranean Sea. And here is the scales from the tail also running off, the effluent of decomposing bodies. Now this is in North Africa, and this is a fish, and that is a dragon, and that is the dragon's throat. Not just hills, not just valleys, but dragon scales, dragon throat, dragon anatomy, dragon blood, and the types of things that were spoken of in the past. Velikovsky was my hero, and he spoke of these things that were written in the ancient texts that have been laughed at. Now, we're headed to Mars, and guess what? Mars has exactly the identical biology that we have on Earth on Mars. So I emailed everyone at NASA because they asked for questions, and I'd like to have some answers. So let's do a video about my questions. Okay, we are looking for truth. I showed you the dragon and the fish. Now, they commemorated these kind of things, and this isn't the only one that shows that. Now, this is a fabulous station. This is Fall of Civilizations. Very, very deep, detailed analysis of the ancient texts. Now, I'm cutting right in way out to where it starts to talk about the ancient Sumerian stories.
The slaying of the dragon Tiamat by the god Marduk and the creation of the world out of her mortal remains signifies the subjugation of the primeval wilderness and the creation of the land by the canalization of the waters and the draining of the soil.
Now, that's the take that they had, this guy's coming across with. However, it appears that everything is biological, and it literally could have been a slain dragon that is the Earth. I'm sorry to bring this to light, but it has to be taken to light to understand reality. And if you can just walk away from it, you're never going to ever understand reality. And you just be whistling in the woods. It's too long for that now.